aligns itself with the statement by the Group of 77 and China and the non-aligned movement, and would like to add the following in our national capacity. Colombia, as it has done over various decades, reiterates its categorical rejection of the economic, commercial and financial embargo imposed on the Republic of Cuba, a sister country and an active member in solidarity of this organization. For the broad majority of the international community, there is no doubt that these unilateral coercive measures are contrary to international law and violate the fundamental principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter. Nor is there any doubt that these measures have a direct impact on the Cuban people. They are an obstacle to its economic and social development. They restrict access to essential inputs and humanitarian goods, limit financial transactions, and make its commercial and logistical operations more expensive. The most recent reports of the Secretary-General recount the profound economic and human impact of the embargo, raising costs for medicines, foods, and medical equipment, restricting access to technologies and the financial resources needed for development, and stopping Cuba from moving towards the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The unjust and unilateral inclusion of Cuba on the list of state sponsors of terrorism constitutes an unjustified measure that is aggravating the effects of the embargo and which ignores its historic contribution to peace. And Colombia can attest to that. Cuba has been a fundamental actor in the pursuit of peace in our country, playing a central role in the achievement of the final peace agreement in 2016 between the government and the FARC-EP, and also supporting its implementation, particularly the processes relating to the ceasefire, disarmament, demobilization, and the reintegration of ex-combatants. Cuba has been and continues to be a trustworthy partner in efforts to build peace in Colombia and the region. For that reason, Colombia reiterates its call for removing Cuba from this unilateral list, which not only lacks justification, but which also amplifies the negative effects of the embargo on the Cuban population. Today, more than ever, Latin America and the Caribbean must be reaffirmed as a zone of peace. As sovereign and independent countries, we must act in unity and solidarity, embracing democracy, defending the self-determination of our peoples, and rejecting any unilateral policy of interference that is contrary to international law, which aims to interfere in the sovereignty, the independence, or the conduct of our internal affairs. They must correspond solely to the democratic mandates of our peoples. Once again, we raise our voice, together with the voice of the vast majority of this Assembly, to demand the end of these unilateral coercive measures, which are an impingement against multilateralism, which violate the principle of sovereign equality, and which contradict the spirit and the letter of the United Nations Charter. The government of change under the leadership of President Gustavo Petro reaffirms its conviction that respect for international law, for the United Nations Charter, and for the principle of sovereign equality of nations, cooperation and solidarity must be the pillars of our international relations. We hope that the day will soon come when the call of the overwhelming majority of the international community will at long last be heeded, and that the Cuban people will be able to fully exercise their rights without the weight of an unjust anachronistic embargo that is incompatible with the fundamental principles of this organization. Thank you very much.